see you guys in the dark.
So about 4 years ago, I was doing a year abroad in Switzerland as part of my degree. Just before leaving, my boyfriend and I ended our relationship, as he was off to America and myself to Switzerland. Anyway, I was quite bummed at first, and then decided it'd be fun to download Tinder. Just piss about and date meaninglessly, as I wasn't going to be there for longer than a year. So I went on quite a few dates. Some were god-awful, some were pretty decent people. I was in Geneva, so there were people from everywhere, basically. A few months in, I matched with a French guy, and we were chatting for a while. My French and his English were more or less the same level, so there were a few mild miscommunications, but nothing big. I was 20 at the time, and had my age preference set to something like 20 to 27. So I've been chatting with this French guy. I'll call him Pierre, for a couple of weeks, and he seems quite cool. He's 27, so a fair bit older, and he's a science secondary school teacher at an all-girls school. Remember this as I make it even weirder. So we went for a drink, and he buys us quite a few rounds, which is great, because it's Switzerland, and I'm a poor student. By the end of the night, I'm pretty drunk, and I remember making out with him, then getting dropped back to my student accommodation by Pierre. He had been drinking soft drinks after the first. Anyway, I see him a couple other times after this, and he's always pushing the alcohol when we're together. One evening, I slept over as it was late for me to get back, and I wake up in the morning, and he's taken off my bra while I was asleep. He was wide awake, rubbing my back, and staring at me. I hadn't slept with him either. It's just been making out so far. Then he told me his mom was coming to visit, and did I want to meet her. I probably only met this guy 3 times. I decided that I was done with this weirdo, so when I left, I was planning on what to say to get rid of him. Anyway, back home later, I got a text that said something in broken English like, "We slept beautifully," and I just left it on read. Later that evening, I got a call from him, but I just let it go to voicemail. When I listened to it, he sounded really upset, and said that he had to confess something to me because he was falling in love with me, and needed to be honest. He revealed that he'd lied about his age. This reminded me of that episode in Friends where Monica accidentally slept with a high school student, thinking he was in his 20s. This guy looked quite young, so I thought he'd lied and was younger than 27. He's actually 35. I know that's not particularly old, but to date a 20-year-old knowing she thinks you're young, I find that kind of weird. I blocked him on Facebook and on my phone. Just sort of got on with the last week of term. He turned up at the reception desk one day, having known where I lived because he dropped me home that one time. The receptionist asked him to leave and informed me as he got quite insistent, so they just warned me. I didn't hear from him again after this, which was good, and I was flying back to the UK in a week for the Christmas holidays. During the holidays, I got a random Facebook friend request from a pretty legitimate-looking profile, so I accepted it just in case I knew them. It was a bad idea. I got a huge essay from Pierre saying I tracked your flight all the way back home to check that you made sure you got home. Okay, pretty creepy. I blocked this other profile and got a message request from another profile about a week later, saying that he had checked flights from Bristol to Geneva online, and decided that I would have chosen the cheaper one closer to term, so he will meet me and we can chat. Now, I don't know if he just turned up at the airport every time a flight from Bristol came in. There are about 2 or 3 a day. But yeah, when I land, I didn't think that he would be there, because who would be able to guess the exact flight that I was on? The minute I come through the gates, I can see him holding a sign with my name on and some flowers. Luckily, he was distracted at the time, so I managed to slip by and get on the train into the city. My friend was already back, so I told her to meet me, and then went to the police station because this guy was pretty weird. Didn't have any trouble with him after this, as he probably found someone else to obsess over. But again, he's a teacher. To girls from the ages of 11 to 18, so gross. Anyway, Pierre, I hope you're not hanging around the airport anymore. So I downloaded Tinder when I was 18, and being single in a big city, I ended up going on a lot of fun dates. One guy really caught my attention because, well, he was really attractive. We chatted a bit, and I felt pretty into him, so I decided that I would go meet for coffee. He was sweet and charming, and we had a great conversation about school, art, and music. We found out that we were both musicians, and the date was going so well that I agreed to walk the few blocks back to his house so that we could play some music for me. I was new to online dating and was still fairly naive, so I followed him into his weird converted garage bedroom and sat down on the couch while he pulled out his keyboard. He played for a little while, and I started getting a little antsy. He was super into the music and kind of getting aggressive with the keyboard. He was slamming keys down, making these weird noises, so I shot up out of my seat and told him that I should get going soon. He totally went back to normal. His tone changed, and his posture became less hunchbacked. So when he apologized for getting carried away, I agreed to sit back down on the couch so that we could talk some more. He came and sat down next to me. We went back to our earlier conversation. He seemed back to normal and nice. So when he asked if he could kiss me, I agreed. He leaned in towards me, and I closed my eyes waiting. And I waited, but I didn't feel his lips. So I opened my eyes a peek and saw him just staring at me. I threw my head back surprised, but he had snaked his hand back towards my hair and interwoven his fingers so that I couldn't move. He then inhaled deeply and told me that you smell like you're Jewish. I can tell because you smell like my aunt's house. I was totally freaked out at this point, partially because, yes, I am Jewish, and tried to wiggle away from him frantically, stating that I had to go. He then jumped on top of me, and to my horror, started sobbing, yelling that he's so sorry that he made me feel uncomfortable. His body weight was completely preventing me from moving, so I forced myself to rub his back. I told him that I wasn't uncomfortable at all, and that he was really sweet. He made me promise over and over again that I'd see him again before finally getting up. I moved to the door and tried calmly to tell him that I really needed to go. He was blocking my way, and all I could think of was that I needed him to let me leave. I couldn't fight him off. He told me that I needed to kiss him before I could leave, and I quickly pecked him on the lips. He smiled at me, and I was glad that he didn't expect more. "Call me, please. I think that went well," he told me, as he opened up the garage door, and I scurried out. I called my mom and started crying as soon as I was far enough away. She called me a cab home, and I blocked him from every way that he had contact. I saw him once after that on campus, and that was enough for me. So I hope that we never meet again. Okay, so that I'll add some extra info that I've been asked. We very loosely had mutual friends. He was friends with my old roommate, who I no longer was in contact with for very different reasons. I found out that after he knew her because he sold her drugs, I did in fact contact the police. This did happen when I was 18. I'm now 22. Nothing more came out of this. He did share that he had really bad anxiety. However, I was not aware that he was self-medicating with drugs, which were probably the cause of this incident. Last I heard, he was in another state growing weed, and hasn't tried to contact me in almost 2 years. So, some context. I have never really been in a long-term relationship. I've dated a girl for a little bit, but I haven't dated a guy. I'm bi. And I've never slept with either a girl or a guy. Like anyone else my age, 21 and female, I start sweeping on Tinder to try and put myself out there. I like to think that I'm not naive and pretty intuitive. I wasn't perceptive about this guy at all. Jake and I swiped and matched each other 2 days ago. Jake's first message telling me he wanted to meet me and my dog. He thought that we were both cute. Liking his directness, I said that we should meet up. The night, the first red flag waved. When I didn't answer him back immediately, he messaged me, asking if he was detecting negativity, chalking up to nervousness. I apologized, explained why I didn't answer, and all was good. We then planned to meet up last night at a bar. Flag number 2 was waved when I arrived at the bar. It's important to note, in the state that I live in, any place selling liquor can't let in someone under 21. I didn't know this, and had been reassured by Jake that I would get in no problem. Of course, this wasn't true. Luckily, in retrospect, unfortunately, seeing my birthday was in just a week, the bouncer let me in anyways. Within minutes, Jake was at the bar too. Meeting this guy, he seemed pretty normal. Red leather jacket, Chucks, typical normal dude. He ordered me a gin and tonic, and one for himself. We settled in to talk. He tells me about his life. He's rich, and his family, and I do the same. We play pool at one point, so I put my drink down. This is when things get a little blurry. I can't remember most of our conversation up until we happened to get back to my place. I remember us leaving, us getting in his car, and us getting back to near my place. You have to understand, I don't drink very much, but one drink does not get me drunk. I don't get hangovers. I barely ever brown out, and I never black out. This is important to notice. Once in my town, we decided to go to a nearby market to pick up food. As we are there, red flag 3 occurs. Seeing someone I thought that I knew, I told Jake that I was going to go say hi. He awkwardly backed away and stood outside at his point, refusing to go meet her. I was wrong, though. I didn't know the girl, and soon rejoined him to walk to my place. As we open the door to my place, my roommate, Maddie, opens the door. We say hi, talk a little bit, and she mentions that she's about to take a shower. Jake at this point creepily makes a "oh" sound. Maddie, who is also tipsy at this point, mentions some guy she wants to have sex with. No biggie, it's the way that she rolls. But after his expression and the realization of how tired I was and how drunk, I say that he should go. He does with no attempt at any physical context. This is where the story should end, but it doesn't. Within minutes, this dude blows up my phone with messages, saying he is more open-minded, like my roommate, calling me boring, implying that I am not attracted to guys, saying that he felt no chemistry, and he hoped that we would have cuddled. Show my roommate, who gasps. She's not getting the full meaning of the open-minded comment. Remember, drunk. I ask why she's so shocked. Finally, I get it. He's implying that he wants to sleep with her, that he's more open to sex than I am. Creepy. Definitely creepy. At this point, I'm freaking out. Slowly, I realize I'm acting and feeling, putting together how one drink shouldn't make me feel this way. I realize I might have been drugged. Maddie and I go to the local police. We report it. I decide not to get tested. I could explain why, but until you're in my position, possibly drugged at 3 a.m., embarrassed, worried that you're wrong, worried that you might be charged for underage drinking, don't judge me. It's a lot harder than it looks to go through the whole process. Anyway, the story ends like this. He's blocked. I'm terrified because he knows where I live, and with me sleeping off whatever's in my body. Jake from Tinder, you need to stop drugging girls. Also, stop creeping on people's roommates. It's definitely gross. About 2.5 years ago today, I recently moved to a new city in Canada. I was 21 at the time, and single as I just got out of a shitty relationship. So moving was a fresh start for me. In a new city where I knew nobody really except my one guy friend, who we will call Mike. Mike didn't live directly in the city though, but we hung out a lot. Since I was single in the new city, I downloaded Tinder. Everyone my age has this dating app, or hookup app, really. I don't usually do dating apps, but I was bored and was looking for a little fun. Remember the I don't do dating apps thing once you reach the end of the story? This is the exact reason I don't ever go on them anymore. So I get on there, and I match with a guy who we would call Andrew. So I didn't message him first or anything, because I was doing a lot of swiping and honestly went on with my day doing other things, as I just moved and needed to unpack. So a couple of hours later, I check my phone and see Andrew has messaged me several times, saying hi, complimenting me, and he even sent a funny pickup line. I always appreciate a good pickup line, as I have a good sense of humor about mostly everything, and don't take many things that seriously. Keep this in mind too. So I replied, and we got to chatting. He eventually asked for my number, so I gave it to him. It was fine from there, really. Nothing weird was said, so he asked to take me to dinner and for drinks. I agreed, and we met 3 days later. We met in a public place, obviously. I saw him outside a restaurant, leaning on his car. It was a really nice car. He asked me to take a photo of it with the sun setting in the background. I said okay, sure, why not? Thought it was random, but whatever. We go inside and eat dinner, drink a little bit, and it was a really good date. So I invited him back to my apartment to keep the night going, I guess you could say. It wasn't super late, and we were really hitting it off. We get to my door, and I was a little tipsy as I drank 3 glasses of wine. I wasn't drunk, though, but I kept forgetting my code to my door, as I had just moved there. So I had it on my phone, and I got us in. The rest of the night wasn't weird at all. I woke up beside him the next day, majorly hungover. Dumb on my part, and we obviously had fun the night before. He left, and all was good. I really didn't want to pursue anything further, so I texted him and said last night was great, but I'm not looking for anything serious right now. He freaked out on me, saying that I was wrong for leading him on, and whatever else was said. Okay, fair. You can have your opinions. That's by all means fine. So I ghosted him. Just didn't really feel like talking anymore after that, as he had said degrading and subjective things. I left it at that and moved on with life as we all would. About a week goes by, and I'm out running errands to finish the last details of getting my apartment finished. I came home, and he's sitting in my living room with flowers and a bottle of wine I was drinking at dinner. I was immediately like, how did you get in here? As you need a key fob, and obviously my door code. The door code thing, after I thought about, didn't surprise me. He remembered it as I had it out, and in the open on my phone. But the key fob, I was confused about how he got the extra one I have. He admitted to taking it when I was asleep, when he stayed the night. I was really mad someone would do that after not even knowing someone for like 16 hours. So I kicked him out, and I was a little shook up about the situation. I blocked his number immediately after he kept apologizing. I just couldn't forgive him after doing that, and invading my home, which is a safe space. Fast forward to 2 weeks later. I was on a little getaway in Seattle with my friend Mike. I posted Instagram stories on the trip, and I forgot until after he followed me, after we matched on Tinder. This is a common thing guys do on Tinder. So he knew I was gone for a weekend. Mike and I are coming back to my place to drop my bags off and chill for a little bit at my apartment. I walk into my apartment with Mike this time, and Andrew was on my couch with a girl. I was completely in shock. He got in again. The girl even had the audacity to say, "Who are you, and why are you in Andrew's apartment?" I lost my mind on both of them and asked him how the fuck he got in again. He had no made-up story this time. He just flat out didn't know what to say except for, "I didn't know when you'd be back, so I've been staying here with blank." Sorry, I forgot this girl's name. Mike was mad at him too, at the situation, and as I told him all about it weeks ago, I demanded to know how he got into my apartment again. He said he made multiple copies of the key fob after he took it. My heart completely sank, and I threatened to call the cops if they didn't get out and give me every key fob that he copied. I was pissed and felt so invaded of my space. About a month goes by, and I was still thinking about it every once in a while. He was blocked on every social media I could find him on. I thought he was gone, until I randomly saw him in places, more and more frequently. Like it wasn't a one-off thing. It was at least 7 times, and I was in public every single time. The last time, however, I was walking the seawall alone, and it was getting pretty late and dark out. It was about 9 p.m. in the beginning of June, and I stopped to tie my shoe, and when I stood up, he was right there. I panicked because I genuinely felt threatened by him at this point. He kept asking why I ghosted him and didn't accept him coming around anymore, meaning him letting himself into my apartment, and how I could be so mean to someone who he was so into. He kept trying to grab my arm to talk to me and started yelling. I was in tears because his next moves I had no idea about. Someone thankfully heard and intervened. I told them I was not okay, and they called the cops. He obviously ran away, and the police asked me to identify him. I gave them his name, and they couldn't find anyone with that name. So now it left me wondering if that was even his real one. I remember I had pictures of him and of his license plate in my phone. He had a nice car and wanted me to take a picture of it with my phone as the sun was setting behind it. Douchey, I know. So I gave them that info, and they told me the plates weren't even registered. Now I'm mind blown about the whole thing and very confused, even a little worried. They couldn't do a whole lot with what I provided, but they said that they would update me if they found anything, and to contact them if he gets into my apartment again, or if I saw him out again. I never did, thankfully, but to this day, I'm always looking over my shoulder for that stalker. I have since then moved and haven't seen him again. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.